Madam Assistant Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome you today to our conference devoted to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And I'm very pleased to see such a diverse participation from our partners in the Visegrad countries to various intergovernmental organizations, from many familiar faces from the public sector to representatives of NGOs, from representatives of municipalities to the business community. Thank you all for being here with us today. Your presence is a testament to the importance we all place on the Sustainable Development Agenda. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. I'll get to that later. I also want to thank especially to the Deputy Prime Minister Richard Drashi for the excellent cooperation in organizing this conference. And finally, a special thanks go to the Assistant Secretary General Ega. I really appreciate that she took the time to be here with us today and to give us an overview of the state of play of Agenda 2030 implementation overall and in our region more specifically. 3.5 years ago, the international community came together and we committed to work together for humanity. The adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was a remarkable success. It is a shining example of what we can all achieve working together. But when I started my mandate as the President of the General Assembly of the United Nations in 2017, it was clear that we were already off track. We quickly recognized that our words of support do not match the results. With the SDGs, we have this great universal plan, this great vision. We have many great, dedicated people working tirelessly to deliver, and we have everyone on board. But the time is running out, and the chances of achieving some of our goals are already at risk. So what's missing from this implementation recipe? From my perspective, there are 3 main ingredients to add. First, financing. We might have the most noble goals and the best policies, but they don't come for free. The SDGs require $5 to $7 trillion of global investment annually. That's between 7 to 10% of the global GDP. This seems like an amount big enough to make our eyes water. And it really is an amount big enough that governments alone will not cut it. We cannot rely solely on public funding, especially not since 60% of global GDP is created in the private sector. That's where the money is, and that's where we need to look. And the good news is that many businesses are willing to help out. But the bad news is that only 17% of the businesses have actually introduced any relevant plans or policies to materialize this support. So clearly, we need to make some effort here. On our home turf, we recognize that there is a lack of experience of Slovak companies in the development business when compared to traditional donors. So we are focusing on building an environment which enables the Slovak private sector to actively contribute to sustainable development. And you will hear more on that, on what we are doing in Slovakia in a couple of minutes in the first session. On a more global level, we use the United Nations General Assembly presidency under Slovakia to call for implementation. It was our idea to host a high-level event dedicated to the topic of SDGs financing. Representatives of businesses, think tanks, investment banks, and non-traditional donors took the central stage. And in this diverse setting, we took stock of various initiatives and best practices in removing barriers to investment in development. These have since been assembled in a toolbox, an online repository of lessons learned. This is a useful tool, showing the steps needed to increase private investment in SDGs. And you can find it on a website hosted by UNCTAD, UN Conference on Trade and Development. It already contains more than 40 examples to learn from, and it's constantly updated. We all know that the need is huge, but the resources are out there. So what we need to do is to match them, connect them, build bridges. Which brings me directly to the second missing ingredient, which is a network. The SDGs were adopted at the United Nations, but it is not for the United Nations alone to deliver on them. We need to encourage and strengthen individual member states' ownership, and we need partners from all across the board. We need to infuse this agenda and its spirit into all areas of our work. And this is where Slovakia is truly leading by example, I think. We are aiming to use our role, weight, and leadership in international organizations to push for the SDGs agenda forward. First, as current chair in office of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, one of our main priorities is to prevent and resolve conflicts. And this is closely linked to the efforts to foster peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, free from fear and violence, including in SDGs 16. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. We are working hard in the OSCE to support meaningful, comprehensive dialogue among states, but above all, to improve the life conditions of people on the ground most affected by conflicts. Just to name one example, I visited the line of contact and the entry-exit point in Luhansk, in conflict-stricken eastern Ukraine. Here, Slovakia financially supports mobile healthcare facilities, among other initiatives. And yet, yes, we are also working at the political level for progress, but we cannot ignore the needs of people on the ground. Secondly, just a week ago, Slovakia chaired the OECD Ministerial Council under the theme Harnessing Digital Transition for Sustainable Development, Opportunities and Challenges. The aim was to brainstorm on how to grab hold of the potential of the new digitalization era and to ensure it is for the benefit of all, in line with the goals set out in Agenda 2030. And thirdly, on a much more regional level, we are using our good cooperation within the Visegrad 4 group for the concrete joint projects. One example is the 35 million euro V4 contribution in support of the second phase of the integrated border management project in Libya. These and many other activities are assembled under the chapeau of the concept for the implementation of the 2030 agenda in the international environment, adopted by the Slovak government in January 2017, in addition to our national strategy on SDGs implementation as just presented by Deputy Prime Minister Raši. But this is not where our networks end. We are here today to understand that each one of us deals with these issues of sustainability on a daily basis, often unintentionally. Just as companies have to learn how to do sustainable business, young people have to gain skills for living sustainable lifestyles. I'm happy to see that we will have a panel dedicated to education for sustainable development, which is the SDG Goal 4. Youth play a central role in development. They are often actors of change, capable of initiating and driving forward meaningful progress on very concrete issues, whether political, environmental, or societal. And that's the third ingredient we need to add: concrete action. Agenda 2030 gives national governments this master plan, but they are called to come up with strategies that fit their own circumstances, at home and abroad. It's clear we are committed, but commitment is not enough. We need to see results on the ground. We need to see wells filled with drinking water. We need to see hospitals filled with affordable technology. We need to see schools filled with children. Small, but very active, the Slovak Development Cooperation aims at exactly that. Together with our partners and by means of the Slovak aid, we have facilitated access to healthcare for more than 43,000 people over 3 years. Directly or indirectly, we have helped to create over 16,000 jobs in partner countries. And via Slovak aid, more than 7,000 people gain access to drinking water. We support partner countries with the improvement of water infrastructure, as well as with building capacities and technical assistance. In 2 weeks, we will organize a seminar for Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine on water. In Kenya, for instance, we support local farmers, we empower local communities, and in doing so, we address root causes of migration. And we are spreading activities of Slovak aid also to other neighboring countries. A lot of work is ahead of us. Slovakia must continue to build its development policy framework and sharpen its focus. Slovak legislation on development cooperation is set to be amended to better support business engagement in developing countries. Processes to broaden the portfolio of the Slovak Export-Import Bank are underway. Over the last year, we have built partnerships with key development actors, such as the UNDP, USAID, or UNICEF. Ladies and gentlemen, we can probably never talk enough on this issue. But what we need most is acting together for the SDGs. Because, and I will put it bluntly, we are on the way to failure. We are well into the year 2019, which means we have less than 11 years left. If we continue with business as usual, by 2030, the list of our failures will be much longer than the list of our successes. I really wanted to close with an optimistic message today, but the truth is the time is running out. The chances of achieving some of our goals are already at risk. We need action, and we need it now. By registering at the entrance, you have signed a virtual statement saying that you are an SDG doer. By being here, you have acknowledged that you care about the future. Thank you for that. We need you, and many more of you. I wish you fruitful discussions and lots of inspirations. And most importantly, I hope you will find new partners, solutions, and ideas for sustainable development. I thank you for your attention.